Today, Zeb and I are setting out on our longest self-supported bike tour yet, 7 days, including a rest day, from Kanazawa to Matsumoto and back again. It's a 430-mile trip, or nearly 700 kilometers, with 33,192 feet of elevation gain. It's about 5:30, and me and Zeb have started our latest adventure. This will be the longest bike trip that we've done so far. We're leaving from Uchinada, which is just outside Kanazawa, the capital of Ishikawa Prefecture. We'll be riding through Toyama and Gifu Prefectures before getting to Nagano Prefecture, and stopping in the towns of Hida, Kanayama, Tsumago-Juku, Matsumoto, and Shirakawa. We made it about 45 minutes in, so we just started, but Zeb is repacking his bag so that the weight distribution is a little better. So I thought I might show you what the bags are that we have for this trip. So they're both Revelate spine lock bags. I have a smaller one. Zeb has a 16-liter bag, so he can pack a lot of stuff. And Zeb's got a Rafa handlebar bag. This is a Moose Pex bag, which is made from our friend that we met in North Carolina. On day one, we got up bright and early to ride as much as possible before the hot summer sun was fully out. Sunrise is at 4:30 in the summer here, so it was definitely an early start. The first day would take us 75 miles, or 120 kilometers, to Hida in Gifu Prefecture. From Uchinada, we rode up and over into Toyama Prefecture, where we followed the Jinzu River into Gifu. From there, we followed the Miyagawa until we arrived in Hida. Hida refers to a general area in the northwest corner of Gifu Prefecture, but it's made up of 4 municipalities: Takayama, Hida, Gero, and Shirakawa. This area gets a ton of snow in the winter, but with the hot temperatures baking us on our ride today, it was pretty hard to imagine it in the cold. This area is best known for its beef, which comes from the black-haired Japanese Wagyu cattle breed, fattened for at least 14 months. There's also high-quality timber found here, and the local carpenters have a high level of craftsmanship because of this. Look, we're in Gifu now! We made it to Hida. Stopped to get some more water at the vending machine. Before checking into our guest house for the night, we rode into the outskirts of Hida proper to pick up food at a family mart. After that, we enjoyed a local campground's facilities to freshen up, since it was still too early to check into the guest house. We made it to Hida, and we're at a campground right now, and we got some snacks at the 7-Eleven, and also some dinner for tonight, because we're staying in a guest house that doesn't have meals. And Zeb's filling up some water at this really nice little sink area that the campground has. We're gonna hang out here for a couple hours and go to a cafe and then be able to check into our guest house for tonight. We had lunch at the cafe and youth hostel, Nanook, which was located at the foot of the hill from the campground. Magical. Lunchtime. They're like welcomed. Come on in. The food was colorful and delicious, and the owner was really kind. Can't wait. We got some fish curry, and it's very picturesque out here. The guest house is around here somewhere. We're here early, which is kind of nice. I like getting up at 5 sometimes. We rode up to our guest house from lunch, where we spent a little time relaxing by the creek until check-in. So we're just hanging out by this very nice creek until we can check into our guest house. Guest house Tomo was like staying with a friend, and it was very homey. I was surprised by how huge and spacious the upstairs was. There wasn't any air conditioning, but at night it got down to 19 degrees Celsius, or 66 Fahrenheit, so we didn't get too hot. So our guest house is so nice. The owner is really friendly, and he must have just had a ton of people here because he was running around really frantically getting our room ready and everything. So I kind of feel bad that we showed up like right after 3, But yeah, it's really nice up here. We have this whole upstairs room just for us. It's massive. And the windows are open and the breeze is coming through. You can hear the cicadas a little. So yeah, it's very pleasant. I could go to sleep right now. The next day, we had another early start. We were pleasantly surprised by the brisk air and the fog in the valley. On this day, we were riding to Kanayama, which was an 86-mile or 139-kilometer journey. We made sure to fuel up with our first convenience stop of the day for breakfast. Breakfast time. It's 5:30 and it's 19 degrees out. It's great.
It's pretty nice.
Not long after starting, we stopped in Hida Furukawa's old town. Wow, look at the koi fish. Wow. Hida Furukawa is only 15 minutes away by car from Takayama, a larger and more popular city that we'll ride through later. However, this smaller town was very charming, and I enjoyed being able to see both. Despite our early departure, we came across many people out on their morning walks, and they were all eager to greet us with a good morning. Unfortunately, here we realized that Zeb's crank was loose, which was a bit of a concern. I was mainly worried that we would have to go to a bike shop and wait in town for one to open, but luckily he was able to use our multi-tool to tighten the lock ring and get it to stop moving. While Hida Furukawa was very quaint and scenic, Takayama was more grand. Wow. As we rode along the river, we passed through a morning market which hadn't officially opened yet, but it was already beginning to buzz. One negative of traveling by bike is that it limits your purchasing potential, but that's definitely a positive for our wallets. Look at all these bottles. All the sake. From Takayama, we made a slight detour to follow the Sisaragi Kaido to Gujo. Sisaragi is the sound of babbling that a stream makes. This road was recommended to us by someone we met at a cafe in Kanazawa, who lives in Gifu Prefecture. He said he enjoys riding his motorcycle on this road, so we gave it a try. It was a great road that we'd recommend anyone to use. After descending into Gujo-Hachiman, we were able to see the castle in the downtown area. Gujo-Hachiman's castle is a yamashiro, or a mountain castle. It added a good bit of elevation, but we rode our bikes up to the castle. This was originally built in 1559 by the local feudal lord, but it was destroyed during the Meiji period. This version was rebuilt in 1933. We didn't pay to go inside because at this point we felt like we were leaving behind puddles of sweat, but it was a really cool castle from the outside and there was a great view of the town below. Interestingly, Gujo also happens to be the fake food capital, meaning that they make the most amount of fake food display products that you see outside restaurants. The town itself is beautiful, split by the Yoshida River that feeds directly into the larger Nagara River. After our castle visit, we stopped at Cafe Kokuchi on the Yoshida River, which was another recommendation from our friend. Oh,
She said Kyoto.
ice cream! Yay! I'm so happy.
Thank you.
Zeb and I agreed that this cafe had the best french fries we've had in all of Japan. The ice cream and the coffee were really good too. From the cafe we rode to a convenience store to stock up for the final road section before leaving Gujo.
Benefit of living in Japan, all the convenience stores, is you can get Coolish, which is just frozen yogurt.
It's ice cream.
Yeah, but if you buy one, you can take it and put it at the top of your bibs underneath your jersey, and you have a nice little ice pack, and it feels really nice.
It's a good tip from Zeb. It's hot today. We climbed out of Gujo on Road 256 to get over to Kanayama, which is a town in the Gero district of Gifu. Once in Kanayama, we swam in the Maze River before checking into our guest house. It was so refreshing. Oh my, be careful. I've been waiting all day for this. It feels so good.
It's so cold.
I couldn't finish my fries at the cafe, so I put them in my pocket. Now I have riverside fries. Peak cozy time right now. It finally went under.
It is refreshing. Yeah. It's just this water is like, to me, legitimately cold.
It's perfect. It's like the perfect summer day temperature.
It's on the chilly side of cold. It's not like frigid. I'm gonna need to lay in the sun after this.
This area has a lot of trout fishing, which is cool. There's our little guest house for the night, and it's an izakaya, so maybe we can eat dinner there. But yeah, we already changed. We're still gonna shower, but we already changed because we got in the river. So yeah, we're in comfy clothes now. Kanayama is also home to this unique tourist attraction, which our host was pleased to show us, saying that the buildings reminded him of Howl's Moving Castle. There's a cool maze of buildings and small alleys, and probably not something anyone would go out of their way to visit Kanayama for, but it was a neat place to walk through and see. Our guest house for the night was located in an izakaya, or a bar restaurant, on the upstairs floor. It ended up being extremely convenient since it was a rainy night and we could eat in the same building as we were staying. It was also quieter than we expected upstairs, which was really nice. Welcome back to our 7-day summer break bike trip. In the last video, we rode from Kanazawa to Hida and then to Kanayama in Gifu Prefecture. This time we're going to Tsumago-Juku and finally to Matsumoto in Nagano Prefecture. Day 3 started with another early morning heading out of Kanayama. After a konbini stop for breakfast, we'd be going through Shirakawa, following the Tsukechi River, crossing the Kiso River, and then finally getting to Nagano Prefecture via the historic Nakasendo. It's day 3! We rode following the Hida River until we've reached Shirakawa, which is unrelated to the Gasho-zukuri village of Shirakawa-go. We'll be going there later in the week though. The confluence of the Shirakawa and Hida rivers is a beautiful little triangle, which we stopped to admire. From Shirakawa, we followed the river and rode along the T road through the Higashi Shirakawa. This stretch of road was unexpectedly one of Zeb's favorites from the entire trip. From the Hida-Shirakawa confluence to the intersection of 256 and 257 was really nice. There are a couple other road options, but the river and the tea bushes here provided enjoyable scenery to ride along. Atsuchinoko is a possibly mythical snake-like creature, said to be found in this area, though evidence of one has yet to be discovered. Still, at the annual festival, you can join the hunt for one, and receive a reward if you catch one. So far, no reward money has been distributed yet. On the other side of Higashi Shirakawa, we joined up with the Tsukechi River and followed it to Nakatsugawa, which is like a gateway to the most well-preserved part of the Nakasendo. The Nakasendo is one of the 5 routes that was used to connect Old Edo to Kyoto in the Edo period. We only have 8 miles left or so, but we have a pretty big climb to get up to the Nakasendo, and then at the top there's like no convenience stores, so it's tonight because our ryokan doesn't have dinner either. I have to buy our dinner here, and then of course we got a little wild in there with ice cream and some lunch and stuff, so we're just gonna camp out by this Family Mart for a little while. We're on the old Nakasendo now. Really nice views. So we just have to finish with a bit of a climb. The name means Central Mountain Route, and there are 69 stations or postal towns along this route. Though it was mountainous, it was one of the most popular ways between the two cities because you didn't have to ford any huge rivers. It runs through the modern-day prefectures of Saitama, Gunma, Nagano, Gifu, and Shiga, with a total distance of about 534 kilometers. The 7 or 8 kilometer section of the Nakasendo from Magome to Tsumago-Juku is one of the best preserved and most famous sections. We rode our bikes up through Magome, which is a popular walking and shopping street. It was really steep, and the signs said no cars or motorcycles, but they didn't explicitly say no bikes. The cobblestones were tricky to ride up, though, and we were clattering a little bit noisily with all of our gear and snacks shaking around, so we tried to ride pretty slowly and stay out of the way of pedestrians as much as we could. If you want to hike this section of the trail, starting in Magome on this street is ideal, since you can park and walk along the shops before it turns into a trail and descends through the cypress and cedar forest. Then you can get in a bus in Tsumago-Juku and ride back to your car. Yeah.
It's steep.
Yay! We made it! The new paved road here follows the old Nakasendo and is open to cars and bikes. As we rode along it towards Tsumago-Juku and the Nagano Prefecture border, it felt like we were going back in time a little. Tsumago-Juku is the 42nd of 69 old post towns, and it's in the larger city of Nakatsugawa. Alright. Hello? It's the Nakasendo.
We've done it.
Yeah. We didn't bike down this.
No.
So we biked down the regular road, but if you want to, you can hike what was the old Nakasendo. And yeah, it's really cool. We'll go through a bunch of like postal towns and stuff. Zeb's taking a bunch of photos.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see the traditional, more preserved trail section of the Nakasendo, and we followed the modern road into Tsumago-Juku. Zeb stopped in an old shop when we got into town to buy 2 non-alcoholic Asahis. With fake beer in our pockets, we rode to the town's parking lot alongside the Araragi River. I've been thinking about getting in the river all day, and Zeb got some Asahi Zeros in the little town up there, so we can have some non-alcoholic beer in the river. Ah, it's gonna feel so good. We had some time to walk around and explore the town before checking into our guest house. Tsumago-Juku might look like a town frozen in time, but it's still lived in today, just under a strict preservation agreement. In 1968, the locals started restoring historical sites and the homes within the town. They restored about 20 by 1971, and then agreed to a charter stating that no place in the town could be sold, leased, or destroyed. In 1976, the town earned a designation from the Japanese government as a nationally designated architectural preservation site. We had some soba for lunch and later snacked on oyaki, or Japanese stuffed dumplings. The dough had more of a steamed bagel consistency than other dumplings I've had, and it was really nice.
Yeah.
It's hot. Walnut flavor? Maybe it's like chestnut? These are kuri asazuke, or lightly pickled cucumbers on a stick. They're a summer treat, and these you could grab after leaving behind a 100 yen coin. We stayed in Shimochojiya, which is a guest house owned and operated by Suzuki-san. He's the 14th generation of his family to live in this building. He's been on a little bit of a hiatus from running the guest house business because he's been enjoying spending time with his young son, the 15th generation, who was born during the COVID years when business was slow. Not only was Suzuki-san kind, but his house was so incredibly beautiful and peaceful. That night we enjoyed our very easy and casual instant ramen dinner that we brought up the mountain with us, and fell asleep pretty soon after. This was the day we would finally reach Matsumoto. We would leave the Nakasendo and ride along the Kiso River Valley through Agamatsu and Kiso before arriving in the city of Matsumoto. Leaving Tsumago-Juku at sunrise was one of my favorite parts of the week. The town was so quiet and peaceful. On our way out, we continued following the old Nakasendo as much as we could. Much of it's now a paved road, but in many areas it's still a hiking trail, so sometimes we had to go around it. Following the Nakasendo here added quite a bit of elevation, which we could have just gone around, but overall, even though this part was slow going, it was fun to see the history. Followed the Kiso River, which is an area that we visited before in my video about cycling up Mount Ontake. We also stopped at the Ononotaki Falls. We rode along the Narai River into Shiojiri, which took us out of the mountains and into the flatland where Matsumoto is located. We passed a sign here letting us know that we had reached the halfway point of the Nakasendo, which was pretty cool.
That's so funny.
As we were riding just ahead of a typhoon crossing Japan, we were rewarded with a pretty strong tailwind that pushed us along into Matsumoto. I'll talk in more detail about this city in the next video, but Matsumoto is a city in Nagano Prefecture at the foot of the Alps. It's also home to one of the 12 original castles left in Japan. We rode through it briefly in my Cycling the Highlands of Japan video. I made it to Matsumoto, and the first stop is laundry. We're eating some lunch outside the laundromat because we have about 25 minutes until we have clean clothes, and then luckily they have dryers here, so we can finally use a dryer again. With our clothes dried, we pedaled over to Nawate Street, where our guest house, the aptly named Nawate Guest House, was located. Check-in was a bit late at 4 p.m., but Zeb was nice to hang out by the bikes while I window shopped. The guest house is owned and operated by a young couple who also own the cafe underneath. Wow. Out of everywhere we've stayed so far, this one had the most European youth hostel type feel. If you're traveling alone and you want to make some friends, this would probably be a pretty easy place to meet someone to sightsee with while staying in Matsumoto. We timed this rest day perfectly because it's raining right now, because there's a typhoon that's coming through, so I need to get an umbrella. We got extremely lucky on this day. Not only had we beat the typhoon to Matsumoto, with the worst conditions expected overnight and on our rest day, but we also arrived in town on the same day as Lake Suwa's 75th fireworks festival. It was being held that night for the first time since 2019. Despite some fatigue from the day's ride, we caught a train down along with many yukata-wearing couples. The train tickets were less than 700 yen each, and the trip took 45 minutes one way. I expected a lot of people, but there were even more there than I thought. The whole central part of the city was shut down for the festival, and there was paid seating along the lake. The lines to get food were insanely long, and many things were sold out with the crowds, but this was the most impressive fireworks display we've ever seen. I would definitely go again, but just bring more snacks next time. The next day we'd be able to explore Matsumoto on a rest day, and we were looking forward to it. Stay tuned to see the next part of our 7-day Natsuyasumi bike trip. Thanks for watching! We're waking up today in Matsumoto on the 5th day of our summer break bike trip, and it's a rest day. We're taking a break from cycling to enjoy some Matsumoto highlights. The name Matsumoto literally means base of the pine tree or place of the pine. It's a city of almost 250,000 people in Nagano Prefecture, and often seen as a hotspot for hikers seeking a gateway to the North Alps. This castle was what I was most excited about seeing, since it's one of Japan's 12 remaining original castles. The black painted wooden keep dates from 1595, and is what gives Matsumoto Castle its nickname, Karasujo, or Crow Castle. The brooding, somber color was designed to sow fear in the hearts of any approaching attacker. Unlike Gujo's castle from earlier in the trip, Matsumoto's is built on flat land, which meant it was a nice, relaxed walk from our guest house to its gates. We arrived shortly after they opened and didn't need to wait in line. However, by the time we were leaving, the sign at the entrance said to expect an hour-long wait. The castle itself takes around 50 minutes to tour. The moon viewing room was probably our favorite. We're having a nice little rest day in Matsumoto. We just saw the castle, and now we're walking to one of the wells, because Matsumoto is known for its water. Yeah. As we walked, we got to drink from many of Matsumoto's springs, since there are dozens of natural spring water wells throughout the city. We got some coffee and headed to the bike shop Clamp to pick up a hand pump for any future flat tires. The shop was in a cool old converted kura, or storehouse. We spotted some signs of Obon while walking around, which is a summer holiday to honor one's deceased ancestors. The cucumber horse and eggplant cow represent Shōryoma, or spirit horses, to help ancestors go back and forth between this world and the next. We finished our walk with some ice cream back on Nawate Street. Luckily, the hardest decision of the day was what flavor to get. This one looks really good, also this one. Okay, I ended up getting the dried persimmon, the hoshikaki, and Zeb got this really fancy salted honey. I don't remember the name. It's very tasty. The next day we were up before the sun for our queen stage. A queen stage in cycling is what you call the hardest day of a multi-day stage race like the Tour de France. Today, we would be going 93 miles, or 150 kilometers, with 10,000 feet of climbing, about 3,000 meters. Okay, we're starting day 5. It's the biggest day. I'll be good. As we left the city, Zeb got a small puncture in his tire, but luckily it looked like the tubeless fluid was doing its job and starting to seal the hole before too much air escaped. To leave Matsumoto, we took roads that we had driven before, since it's one of the only reliable routes to get over the mountains from Nagano to Gifu. There are a lot of tunnels and quite a bit of traffic, but overall it's not too bad if you're okay riding in traffic. Originally we had planned to take the Norikura skyline, which is Japan's highest road, and it's closed to traffic but open to pedestrians and bikes. However, from reading Google reviews recently, Zeb had discovered that it was closed due to a landslide. The website states that there's no plans to reopen in 2023, but maybe in the future it'll be open again. If you're watching this in the future, let me know in the comments if it reopened. This climb is wild. I just got howled at by a bunch of monkeys. The mountain we passed over is called Akandanayama along Route 158. The neighboring Mount Yake is an active volcano and popular hiking destination, and in many areas along the road you can smell the sulfur and see the steam from the hot water. There's a tunnel that cuts under the mountain, but unfortunately it's closed to pedestrians and cyclists, so we had to go up and over. Would be nice. Just before the tunnel, Route 158 cuts to the right and climbs along a series of over 14 numbered curves. All the switchbacks looked pretty intimidating on the map, but it was a fairly gentle climb with an easy grade, and at the time, a lot of monkeys. Kind of scary, but very cool. Wow! Now we can eat some snacks and go downhill. Feels great. There was a great view at the top when we passed into Gifu Prefecture. After this, we would have one more climb before the long descent to Takayama. This is the second climb of the day, and it's a really pretty wooded area. And because most cars go through the tunnels, there's not very many cars on this road. So it's really nice. At the top of the second climb, we passed the Norikura skyline on the Gifu side, and we could already see heavy machinery and construction workers at the entrance. So it was probably good that we decided to take our detour. After descending down towards Takayama, we rejoined some roads from day one, which took us through Hida. "25 miles to go! We're so close!" From there we went up Route 360 to the Amo Pass. This stretch of the trip was the only poor weather we encountered along the whole week. It was pouring rain for our final 280-foot climb, but that was kind of a blessing in disguise since otherwise we would have been in the direct sun during the hottest part of the day. I think this is the top. Wow! Maybe on a sunny day in the future we can see the view from here. We've ridden to Shirakawa-go before on previous trips, but this was our first time coming up and over from this side on Route 360. Even though it was the middle of August, by the time we reached the guest house, we were really excited about a hot shower. We made it! We stayed at the same guest house as last year, and luckily the owner let us check in early and get dry. After showering, we enjoyed the guest house's pantry, where all the snacks were only 150 yen. While flipping through this book featuring cafes, I actually found the one that we visited on the first day of our trip. Dinner time. There aren't too many restaurants open in Shirakawa-go after 3 p.m., but we decided on a local yakiniku place to try this region's famous Hida beef. We both found it to be worth the price, even though we're not big meat eaters usually. The final day was thankfully a pretty straightforward one. Here we go. So it's 6 a.m. now, so we slept in for an extra hour. Our route followed a lot of what we rode before, but we cut out the more adventurous bits to get home more quickly. First, we started our morning with an early lap around the historic section of Shirakawa-go village. If you live in Shirakawa-go, you must have to get up early, because it was probably only 6:30 in the morning when the town speakers kicked to life and started blaring good morning messages. They started playing Rajio Taiso, or radio exercises, which are warm-up calisthenics that started in the 1920s, and they're sometimes still played in the mornings at school PE classes, workplaces, and apparently in rural towns. So that's what you'll hear now. All warmed up, we were ready to get out of town and officially start our final day of riding. We took Road 156, which parallels the Tokai-Hokuriku Expressway and goes through a couple tunnels. As we followed the Sho River Valley, we passed through Suganuma and Ainokura villages in Gokoyama, which are similar to Shirakawa-go with their Gasho-zukuri buildings. On our previous ride, we didn't go through these two places, so it was nice to have some new scenery. Wow. Wow, so cute. Climbing back into Toyama. Unfortunately, this time of year also comes with swarms of biting flies, which were much less pleasant, but kept us from staying too long in one place. We just have one more climb left to Iwaku Onsen, and it feels really good to be back so close to home. We climbed over the Torii Dam before descending down into Kanazawa and passing through Iwaku Onsen. We're in Ishikawa. From there, everything was pretty familiar, and we joined the Asanogawa bike path to take us home along the river. This was my biggest week of biking, and it was such a confidence boost to finish a trip that intimidated me. I have a lot of really nice memories from this bike trip. Thanks for watching!